as Rick and I have gotten older, and as we've been in the church for a long time, and in one particular church for a long time, we've talked about the fact that we have this sort of vantage point of elder statesmen in the church, that we've been around to know the history, both of a lot of the people there, but also of that particular institution. And I was reading a devotion recently where the author, who is a retired pastor, used this quote from Cicero, where it said that the grace of old age is influence. And I thought that was great, because our idea, and Cicero apparently agreed, that there's something about being older, about being more experienced, about being around, that gives you a certain amount of influence. And in that article, the pastor pointed to the 92nd Psalm, where at the end, the psalmist writes, "The righteous man will flourish like the palm tree. He will grow like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of the Lord, they will flourish in the courts of our God. They will still yield fruit in old age. They shall be full of sap and very green, to declare that the Lord is upright. He is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in him." And so the psalmist here is talking about people who are a little older, people who have been around for a while, people who have walked with the Lord. And yet, unlike our society, where we often think of those who are older as having not a lot of value or not a lot to contribute, the psalmist is saying that those who have walked with God will flourish. They're still going to yield fruit in their old age. They're still full of sap and green. There's life in them as they declare that God is their rock and that he is righteous. And so I would encourage you today, especially if you are among our senior saints, to think about the fact that God has allowed us to have the experiences that we've had, to have the teaching that we've had. God has allowed us those things so that we can continue to have influence on those around us, so that we can continue to participate in the body of Christ, so that we can continue to yield fruit for his kingdom. And one of the things that that means is that we have to be around people. We have to be in a place where we can have influence. And some of us have physical limitations that limit our world, but we can have influence even in that limited world. And some of us allow maybe the aches and pains, maybe the weather, maybe the fear of what might happen if I'm out amongst others, to stop us from still having that influence that we could have. So I would encourage you today, trust God for your day. Trust God for what might happen instead of allowing your mind to go down that rabbit trail. Trust that God knows what this day holds, and then reach out to somebody. Use the years that you have walked with the Lord to impact those who are coming behind. Use that influence that you have, that by virtue of the life that you've lived, to affect others for the kingdom of Christ. Let's be people who are full of sap and green, even in our older ages. Let's be people who are still yielding fruit right to the very end.